When I saw the clothes, I tried to move away, but my dad stood there with his hand firmly grasping my arm, making it impossible for me to do anything but moan. My mother stood next to the bed, grim-faced but determined. I was told to strip, and looking at my dad, I knew I didn't have a choice, so I undressed down to my shorts. "Those two," Mom said, "and then I want you to put these on." "Do I have to?" "I'll never do it again. I promise. Put them on, or I'll help you." It went downhill rapidly after that. A padded bra was strapped around my chest, pantyhose slipped onto my legs, and then the dress was drawn over my head and buttoned up. Pink and frilly with white lace, it was short about 2 inches above my knees and fit tightly around my midsection, yet it was held out at least a foot by the layers of petticoats underneath. The shoes were white Mary Janes, which Mom fastened on my feet before taking me to the bathroom to put makeup on my face. Eyeliner and eyeshadow, blush and lipstick, and then the wig, which was a dark brown like my own hair. As a final insult, she dabbed perfume on me before she said she was done. One look in the mirror was all it took. I was horrified to see that I didn't look like myself in a dress, but rather like nice-looking a pretty teenager. My parents had me follow them to the family room, and then Dad spoke up. "When you decided to hide in the girls' locker room, we're sure it was because you wanted to see naked girls. But then again, perhaps it was because you wanted to be a girl like they are. Your mother and I are not fond of making you do this, but it was the only and maybe even the best punishment we could think of that was acceptable to Molly and her parents. Short of getting the police involved, her parents, the school, and the two of us have decided to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that you wanted to be a girl so badly that you couldn't help yourself. Now then, let's go over the rules, which are really quite easy to remember. You will dress as a girl at all times, regardless of the situation, wearing the proper attire for the situation. Your mother will see to it that you have everything you need, and you'll wear whatever she tells you. As we see it, your best bet is to look, sound, and act as much like a girl as you can, or risk having someone decide that you are really a boy in a dress. If at any time we find out that you are not dressed properly, you sus either of us or any other adult, fail to use proper manners, or act up in any way we deem unacceptable, your time in dresses will be extended by 5 days for each offense. If my reckoning is correct, one mistake and you'll be attending school in dresses, so be very careful what you say or do. From now on, Mom said, in order to give you some small bit of protection, we are going to call you Patricia, and also start a photo album so we can keep track of your progress. Are there any questions? Dad sounded as if he didn't care even if I did have any questions. I shook my head no. It requires a verbal answer, Patricia. No, sir. Fine. Then your punishment starts right now and will run through the summer vacation. Unless your time is extended, of course, but that's up to you, isn't it? Yes, sir. That day was the absolute worst day of my life, and while I felt the tears in my eyes, I didn't dare cry for fear that my time in dresses would be extended. Dad went to work, and then Mom handed me a small purse, telling me that we had a few errands. I hated it, but I walked out to the car and got in. As we were driving along, Mom said, "If you try to do your best, I promise you that we will overlook minor infractions, and I'll bet that after a little bit, you'll find that being a girl isn't that bad. I'm a girl and look at me. I didn't turn out badly, did I?" "Yeah, but you really are a girl, Mom. You're supposed to turn out that way. If girls are supposed to turn out that way, as you put it, then you will too. But what about Derek? When he finds out, I'll lose my very best friend in the whole world. If he is a good friend, then he'll understand. After all, he knows that you were caught, right? And he knows that you are being punished." "Yeah, but I know that you're concerned, but it really doesn't matter what he thinks, honey. This is your punishment, so just accept it and make the best of it." Mom stopped talking, and I sat there, sullen and angry. I didn't want to be a girl, of course. I had wanted to see Molly naked, but the girls' coach had caught me when she rounded the corner before I could duck into one of the private shower stalls. I never did see Molly, naked or not, since I was virtually dragged to the coach's office where she called my mom. I knew full well that I was going to get it, but I never figured that I would be wearing dresses. Then, in a sort of offhand way, Mom casually mentioned that there would be times when my upper chest would be on display, and since girls my age have breasts, you should too, and she was going to make sure that I did have them. She took me into a shop where I was humiliated once again when I had to stand there as Mom unbuttoned my dress and had me take it off. Standing there like that caused the woman to giggle, but she quickly found the exact breast form in the right color, then attached them to my chest. Mom helped me get the bra back on, then buttoned my dress, paid the bill, and we left the shop. I looked like a 10-year-old with boobs. Just the weight of them felt strange. The way they bounced and moved in the bra was all new to me, and it caused me to wonder if all girls felt that way. I was wearing a dress that at best made me look like a teeny bopper, but with boobs pushing out, it gave me a sort of girlish Halloween look. Mom must have known that, because our next stop was at a shop that sold clothing for girls my age. I was told that I could pick out 3 dresses, 4 skirts and blouses or tops to match, but I didn't have a clue what to look for. Mom told some lady to help me, adding, of course, as a boy, she doesn't have the slightest bit of fashion sense. Then she left the shop. The woman didn't laugh or giggle at all, merely taking me to the skirts and beginning to hold them up to me. I was able to choose the colors I liked. Then she grabbed a top and took me by the hand to a changing booth. "I'll undo the buttons on your dress. Honorable, you put those on and come back out." The top was a light rose color, tight-fitting and cropped as was popular then. The skirt was white and short, almost 2 inches above my knees. I felt naked and awkward, but at the very least I looked like over half the girls my age. Then she and I picked out everything Mom told me to get. The dress I wore into the shop went into the bags for the other stuff just about the time Mom showed up. She smiled at me, paid the bill, and we left for a shoe store where I was fitted for heels and flats, some of each before we left with me wearing the white flats. Now, isn't that better? Yeah, I guess. At least I don't look so silly. Making you wear that silly dress was to prove a point, young lady, but if you keep talking like that, I can arrange for you to enjoy those kinds of dresses every day. I didn't say anything as Mom took me into a jeweler who pierced each ear plus my navel, adding a small gold hoop in each place. Mom told me she saw many girls my age with navel rings and told me that she knew that I just had to have one. Since my hair was barely long enough, I was wearing a wig, so I escaped the indignity of a salon, although Mom mentioned that as soon as my hair was long enough, I would have an appointment. Lingerie, specifically panties, bras, waist cinchers, nightgowns and slips were added to the growing number of bags, and while I groaned under the weight, Mom acted as if she were on a mission. Our next stop was at a makeup store where I was seated in a chair and all of the sparse makeup I had on was washed off before some lady started in on me by plucking my eyebrows. When she was done and I looked in the mirror, I saw an entirely new person. Not me, not the girl I saw that morning, but an entirely new girl, and she was, to my great dismay, pretty. That's when Mom began to lighten up a bit. In a costume jewelry shop, I was allowed to buy my own earrings, bracelets, hairbands, necklaces, and rings, one for 3 fingers on each hand before we left for home. Mom helped me take everything to my room, then left me to put it all away. That took about an hour. Then I went to the kitchen to get a soft drink and had just walked in when I saw a familiar face at the back door. It was Derek. I let him in, standing there as he stared at me. "Damn, you look hot. Better than Molly by a long shot. Are you nuts? You know what happened and who I am, so how can you say that I'm hot? Have you taken a really good look at yourself? Come here." Derek took my arm and dragged me to the hall mirror and shoved me in front of it. Since I had not seen all of me yet, you could say that I was shocked at the way I looked. Derek was right. I was hot. "Let's go shoot some pool." "Like this? I'm just fine. Ask your mom and let's go. You're not afraid to be seen with me like this. You've got to be kidding, right? Half the guys they'll wet themselves just trying to find out who you are, which reminds me, what do I call you?" "Patricia." "Oh, hi Daniel," Mom said as she walked out of her sewing room. "I see you've met Patricia. I just asked her to come shoot some pool. Is that okay?" Of course, but I want you home by 6, honey. Derek held the door open, and for the first time, I left the house dressed as a girl normally would, and I went somewhat willingly, although concerned. Dan and I walked the 3 blocks to the game room, went in, and found an empty table. Since I hadn't brought a purse, Derek had to pay. He didn't sink anything, and it was my turn. But when I started to bend over to take the shot, I realized that the short skirt rising would just about reveal my panties, so I wasn't able to shoot like I usually did. I took another shot and missed. I got clobbered big time because I wouldn't bend over so far, and I vowed that I wouldn't care during the next game. That's when Derek caught a glimpse of my panties, which were really tight on my butt. He didn't say anything as I beat him, and we played a few more games before I had to go home. On the way, he said that he would be over the next day. I helped set the table and served dinner, then helped with the dishes before I went to my room. When I undressed, I had a chance to examine the breasts that were stuck to my chest, and to my dismay, they looked virtually perfect as I could barely find the seam, and pulling on them only made my chest hurt. Laying naked on my bed, I wondered how I could have been so stupid to have been caught like that, and with my closet full of girls' clothes and having my own boobs, there wasn't any doubt. I was about to find out what it was like to be a girl. When Derek and I had gone to shoot pool, none of the other guys knew who I was, which was a very good thing, and I realized right then that the only way to get through this was to do what Mom told me. Become a girl in every respect. That way, nobody would doubt who I was, which would be my only protection. I put on a nightgown, then went online to see what I could find out about boys that were dressing as girls. After I filtered out the geeks, really strange stuff, and guys looking for boys like me, I found several sites that sold things to help a boy look like a girl. For instance, padded panties that made you look like a girl, yet let you relieve yourself. Then sites that showed how to create cleavage, which I didn't need, or makeup to cover a beard, which I also didn't need. It wasn't like I wanted to be a girl, but if I didn't become just like a girl rather quickly, I might find myself in school as one. So I went down to get Mom, telling her that she needed to see something. I showed her the special panty, then asked her if I could get one, but it says right here that once you put it on, it will stay for up to a month. You told me I had all summer, right? If I'm going to be a girl, and do my best of course, then wouldn't this help? I mean, didn't you and Dad tell me to look, sound, and act like a girl, and dress appropriately for every occasion? If I feel like a girl, and have to, well, use the girls' room, then won't that help me? Mom thought about it for a minute, then said okay, left the room for a moment, and when she came back, handed me her credit card. I typed it all in, then selected what she and I thought was the right size and color before I hit the send button. Then I played computer games until I went to bed. The next morning after I showered, I decided to get dressed myself, and after I pulled on some panties, I tried my hand at makeup. It wasn't as good as what the lady had done, but not bad. Then after struggling with the bra, I figured it out, wearing a simple blouse and a skirt, the red one. The wig went on easily, and after I put on some lipstick, I went to breakfast. Dad didn't say much, then he left for work, leaving me and Mom alone again. I saw Derek every day, and after a week, he had started calling me Trisha every time, but I saw something in his eye that I didn't recognize and dismissed it as curiosity. The panty arrived, and once Mom helped me get it on, I realized that it also made my waist a bit smaller. It was a tight fit, and I had to be careful to get my parts in the right place, but once I had it on, I absolutely didn't look like a boy. I heard Mom's sigh as I got dressed. Everything looked and fit better because I had a rounder butt and slightly wider hips, and that made me feel confident that I could manage being a girl, even though I kept telling myself that I didn't want to be one. It only took a couple of times for me to remember that I had to use the bath sitting down, and while I missed my toy, it wasn't as bad as I had thought it would be. The panty gave me a confidence that I had lacked before, a sense that I had really become a girl, and I came to enjoy it in some ways. Wearing makeup stopped being a chore, and I liked trying different colors just to see how I would look. I also became adept at doing my own makeup, which both Mom and Dad commented on, But the biggest change was between Derek and me. While he knew that I wasn't really a girl, his entire demeanor changed when he was around me. Things that I took for granted no longer applied, like paying my own way. Derek had started to insist that he pay when we shot pool, and he started opening doors for me. The biggest change was the way he looked at me. Since I wasn't familiar with that look, I didn't realize that he had started seeing me as both his friend and a girl. Something inside of me knew that, which is why I always tried to look nice for him. But I was ready to deny it if someone asked me to try and say it. There was one thing about that panty that I wasn't sure Mom knew about, and that was that it had an internal sheath built into it. I was playing Discover one night when my finger slipped inside of the panty. The inside was slick, and while my finger didn't get wet, I instantly realized that I was more like a girl than I thought. I never said a word about my discovery to anyone. I heard the doorbell ring, then my name being called, and bounded down the stairs only to see the coach who had caught me sitting there. "Your father told me that you were adapting quite well, and I can see that he was right. Irene is here for a reason, Trisha. Come sit next to me. Rather than have you sitting around the house all day," Irene said, "I thought that you might want to join our summer tennis league. I already know that you're a pretty good player, so why not? The prizes are going to be quite spectacular, and we have a great party after the season is over. But, like this? Of course, this is an open league, but looking like you do, you'll have to play with the girls, silly. But I'm not, if someone found out, and how would that happen?" Mom sounded stunned that I would say that. "I mean, I helped you put that thing on, so unless you tell someone, who would know, and how would they find out?" Mom had me there. It had been my idea to buy it, and now that I had worn it for over a week, well, I didn't have any good reason to say no, so I slowly nodded my head yes. I had come to like being a girl enough, I guess, but I was a boy, and looming in the near future was a possible extension if I had said no, which is why I agreed so quickly. Irene was instantly smiling as she handed me the schedule. My name was already on it. I looked up, and I didn't think you would say no, so I penciled you in. You'll be paired with Molly for the first round, by the way. Great, I thought to myself, the girl that caused all this was going to be my tennis partner. After the coach left, Mom told me to get my purse since I needed to have a few tennis outfits. At the shop, we picked out 2 tennis dresses and 2 skirts with white polo-style shirts to go with them. Then Mom insisted on 3 pairs of ruffled panties. I also bought new shoes and a soft pink and white bag to hold my racket, since the other one had my name stenciled on it. Before we left the shop, they stenciled my new name on the new bag in a flourished typescript. When I got home, I tried everything on, noticing that those pleated skirts showed an awful lot of my ruffled butt every time I moved. I showed Mom, who approved, then I changed again just before Derek showed up. "Want to go to the show tonight? Are you asking me out? On a date?" "Well, I guess, why not? The way you look. Hell, half the guys that have seen you want to ask you out, and besides, I've been paying your way for a while now anyway." He had a point, so I have to ask Mom, wait here. Mom wasn't quite as shocked as I thought she would be. She told me I could go, adding that I had to be in by 11. I told Derek I could go, which made him smile. He and I were about to leave for the game room when the phone rang, and Mom stopped me. "Mrs. Douglas needs a babysitter for a few hours, so I told her that he would be right over." Derek looked put out, but he left alone while I walked a few houses down to Mrs. Douglas's. I wasn't sure how she knew that I was now a girl, but she didn't act as if she knew I wasn't, only she had to know, since I'm an only child. She let me in, all smiles and so on, showed me where everything was, then said, "I'm so glad that we now have a girl your age in the neighborhood. It's such a pain having to drive some girl home every time we need a sitter." She left me with the kid, a little girl about 2, who was into everything at all times, and it took all of my energy to make sure she didn't get into trouble. I changed her once, which was, believe me, a true test of my ability to work past the mess she made. Then Mrs. Douglas returned on time and paid me $20 for the few hours I had been there. I never knew that girls could make so much money for essentially watching television and a kid, and found one more reason to like being a girl. As I walked home, I had this strange idea pop into my head that if I screwed up, I would find myself in school as a girl, and wondered if that wasn't such a bad idea. I quickly forgot about that idea and went home to help Mom make dinner, which was one of my new jobs. That night, around 7, Derek came by to get me. Then his mom drove us to the show. We sat in the upper balcony, which had always been our favorite spot. As the movie started and the theater got very dark, I felt his arms slip around my shoulders as he pulled me closer to him. We sat there like that for almost the entire show. Then he moved his arm and put his hand on my leg, squeezing gently. When I looked up, we were nose to nose, which is when he kissed me, right on the lips. Shocked, yet feeling tingly all over, he kissed me again, while he moved his hand up my leg at the same time. I knew that he didn't know about my special panty, so I wondered why he was doing that, but I put my hand over his to stop him anyway. He was grinning at me, not saying anything, and as I looked around us, I saw through the dim lighting other couples also kissing. He grabbed my hand and put it on his lap, and for the first time, I felt another boy's hardness. He didn't say anything as he turned my head and kissed me again, and reflexively, I squeezed him, making him squirm in his seat. I knew that he would have to take a shower and rinse out his briefs when he got home, and somehow, that made me feel wonderful. I hadn't experienced the same joy he did, my toy firmly fixed in a way that wouldn't allow me to do that, but I did feel a sense that I had become more of a girl than I had ever planned on or expected. When his mother dropped me off at home, Derek did the unthinkable. He kissed me, and his mother was watching us. As I lay in bed, everything was in a jumble. I was a boy. I always had been and still was, yet when I ran my hands over my body, all I could feel were my breasts, trim waist, then the true sign of my femininity, a mere slit surrounded by a trim of hair that looked and functioned as if it were real. First, there were the clothes, then the makeup which I liked wearing, then the boobs which made me look normal, a panty that let me function like a girl, and finally, Derek kissing me. Had I come to like being a girl so much that I willingly helped Derek enjoy a release? Did I like the tingly way I felt when he kissed me enough to give up being a boy? Trying to picture Molly naked only recalled the way I looked, and I realized that how she looked meant nothing to me. After all, if I wanted to see a naked girl, all I had to do was undress. I had been wearing dresses for almost 5 weeks, an extremely short time, yet I knew. I knew in my heart that I wanted to remain a girl, and regardless of what anyone thought, I knew that I would have to tell Mom just that. Not Dad, he would freak out, but Mom would understand, I was sure of it. The next morning when Mom and I were at the table alone, I told her how I felt. The only thing I left out was the part about Derek messing in his pants and why. But when I told her how I felt when he kissed me, I saw her give me one of her thin smiles. She didn't look surprised when I told her that I wanted to remain a girl, or that Derek had kissed me. You are a very pretty girl, Trisha, and Derek knows that too, which is why he is attracted to you. He has known you all his life. You two are like brothers almost. Yet when you appeared as a girl, his entire outlook changed. He has begun to see you not as his best buddy, but someone that he has always felt great affection for, and as a girl, that affection for you has changed. Do you feel the same way about Derek? Does he make you feel mushy inside when he is around, let alone kissing you? A little, I guess, but I'm a boy. He knows that as well as I do, and he still kissed me. I didn't plan on this, Mom. Honest, it just happened. Yet you just told me that he makes you feel all mushy inside, so I'm going to take that as a sure sign that what you're telling me is true. You want to keep on being a girl, is that right? Dad's going to kill me when he finds out. You're assuming that I don't care. I raised a son and I'm happy very with that. However, it does seem that you have been very honest with me, and so far you have followed our directions and done your best to look and act like a girl, so well in fact, that Derek now sees you as a girl. If I let you do this, and I'm not saying I will, the only way that your father will consent to leaving you in skirts is if you screw up enough to force us to discipline you by extending your time as a girl, right? I nodded my head yes, and that means that you would have to attend school as a girl. Another nod yes from me, and the punishment is up to me, right? I'm thinking that you just refused to help me clean the kitchen, threw a tantrum, and stayed in your bedroom not answering me. That means that I am forced to provide some sort of punishment, in this case, a 3-week extension plus 3 days in those frilly little girl dresses you hate so much, with 2 outings while wearing them. Now let's get you all fixed up to look 10 years old again. When I emerged from my bedroom, I was once again in that same frilly dress and those shoes, my hair in pigtails, and the minimum of makeup. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere, as if I would, and when Derek showed up, I was holding a dolly that Mom had bought for me. He didn't stay, and I was relegated to the family room until just after lunch, when Mom took me to Dad's office and had me walk through the hallways and into his office like that. I hated it, but I knew that it was for a good reason, and simply bore the humiliation. Dad was stunned that I was in his office like that and quickly shut the door. What happened? Mom told him the same thing she told me just that morning. You know, we would not have forced you into school dressed like a girl. We only wanted you to think that we would. But that kind of behavior is not now, and never has been acceptable, and you know it. Turning to Mom, what do you think? I think we don't have any choice but to do exactly what we told her we would do. Patricia is going to start school as a girl, whether she likes it or not. The upside is that she will be playing in the tennis league starting next week, so maybe she will be able to manage school well enough to get by. I say that we do it. Dad hated it, but he agreed. Then Mom and I were on our way out. She took me to a small dress shop, telling me that it was the place she bought the dress I had on, adding that I needed at least one more. What I ended up with was 2 more of those funky dresses, one all-white satin with white lace sleeves and an insert at the neck. The other was powder blue with small flowers on it. I had to wear the powder blue one home and remain in it all day, even when we went grocery shopping. Mrs. Douglas saw me and commented how nice my dress was, then went on her way stifling a giggle. I was back to the horrible part of being a girl. I got to stay in the next day, but when Derek showed and took one look at me, he split as fast as he could. On the 3rd and last day, I was wearing the white dress when Mom opened the door and let Molly in the house. Ashamed to be seen like that, I know I blushed, but Molly became very animated. I came over because Coach Iron told me that you were going to be my partner next week. I didn't know that you liked to play little girl. That's one of my favorite games. Tricia has some other dresses if you would like to stay and play with her, Molly. Oh, can I? Certainly. Tricia, take Molly and help her get changed. Then you girls come and play in the family room. I took Molly to my room and set out the pink and white dress, then watched as she stripped right down to her panties and slipped the dress over her head. I had finally seen her naked, and while she was cute as hell, she wasn't that well built. But then again, she was a real girl and I wasn't. Not having a lot of dolls, she was limited to my old teddy bear, but she didn't seem to mind, and we were soon sitting in the family room chatting away like 2 long-lost friends. Molly had no idea who I really was, at least I don't think so, since she never gave me any indication that she knew, and she turned out to be a really nice girl. Molly and I were happily sitting on the floor playing when Derek came over. Molly, giggling, asked him if he wanted to join us, and he said, "Heck no. Playing with dolls is for girls." When he left, she and I both started giggling, something that I virtually never did. She invited me to her house the next day, and I saw no reason not to ask. So I did, and Mom quickly said yes. Her mom picked her up a few hours later, and I promised to be at her house in the morning, when I didn't have to wear the frilly dresses. The next morning, I wore a skirt and cropped top with my flats, ready to go over to Molly's when Mom handed me a bag. Inside was the blue dress with my Mary Janes and my dolly. Smiling, Mom drove me across town, where I met Molly's mother for the first time. Molly was already in her frilly dress, so we went to her bedroom where I quickly changed, and because her collection of dolls was so much larger, we had plenty of choices. I got to be the tall, sexy blonde with all the toys while she wanted to be a redhead. It was somehow invigorating to sit there playing with dolls, something that I never would have considered before. It was therapeutic in a lot of ways. Molly was helping me gain the knowledge that all girls have by the time they are my age, and playing dolls was how they learned it. When we had lunch, my mom was still there, so I was certain that she had told Molly's mother who I really was, which I thought was confirmed by the way she looked at me. But she didn't say a word, not even when Molly asked me if I wanted to use the pool and handed me a swimsuit of hers. Like Molly, I stripped down and put it on, all without any sign from Molly that she had noticed anything, which was fantastic, since we had both gotten naked at the same time. Since my hair was almost long enough to wear without a wig, Mom helped me get the wig off, then brushed my hair in a sort of girlish style. Molly asked me about it, of course, so I told her I got mad one day and cut my hair off, and it was just then growing back, which is why I wore a wig. She bought it, and we stayed in the pool for a few hours. Then Mom said that it was time to go home. Surprising even me, I wore the blue dress home. Becoming a little girl was something that I had hated with a passion until Molly introduced me to the joy of it, and every day after we played tennis together, we would stop and play at her house, which seemed to cut Derek out. He stopped by one day when I was wearing a new dress, one that was blue with white lace and little white polka dots on it, my petticoats pushing the skirt way out, which was daring since the dress just barely went past my pubes. That's why I wore the ruffled panties. He took one look at me, and "You're really into this girly thing, aren't you? I mean, just look at yourself. You didn't seem to mind it before, Derek. What's different? The dress? I can change that if I wanted to." "Yeah, maybe, but will you? I mean, I haven't seen you hardly at all." Derek was actually pleading with me. That's when I knew for sure that I had the power over him, so then why not stay here and play with me? Wearing a dress? Not me. Who knows? Maybe you'll like it, and besides, it's not like we're going to go anywhere. It'll be just the two of us. I can help you get dressed if you like. Remember, you don't have anything that I haven't seen before. Come on, Derek, try it. We'll stay here, right? In your bedroom. Maybe not my bedroom, but in the house, that's for sure. So you'll do it, just this one time, and if you tell anyone. I took him to my room, passing Mom in the hallway, so I told her that Derek wanted to play dress-up and dolls with me, which is when she followed us into my room and proceeded to help Derek become a cute little girl that he called Diana. He looked darling in the pink and white dress, so I gave him my Mary Janes to wear while I wore my flats. Mom told us to go into the family room, which we did, each of us carrying a doll of our own. Diana relaxed after a bit and seemed to forget that he had a dress and wig on until his mom came over looking for him. One look was all it took. Diana ran out of the room, straight to my bedroom, and took off the dress and put his own clothes back on. When he returned, he was red-faced and swore to all of us that he wouldn't do that ever again. When he went to leave, I gave him a kiss on the cheek and saw his mother wink at me. I didn't change, so Dad once again saw me wearing one of those dresses and assumed that I screwed up again, but Mom assured him that I had a friend over and we were just playing. That made Dad shake his head in wonderment. 2 days later, about 10 in the morning, I opened the door after hearing the bell and saw Diana standing there. She wore a very cute light green cropped top with a darker green skirt. Her boobs were smaller than mine, but she had auburn hair that went past her shoulders. Her mother wasn't anywhere to be seen. "Can I come in?" I let her in, stunned to see Diana again, especially after what she had said before. "My mom said that I should come over and tell you something." "What? I've been Diana before. You look fantastic." Just then, Mom walked in the room, saw Diana and smiled at her. "I have a few errands and was going to ask Trisha to come along. Why don't you join us? We'll stop for a treat later." That's how I found out that Derek liked to play dress-up once in a while. He was all boy, of course, and didn't want to be a girl. He just liked to wear a dress once in a while, even though I thought he was cute as hell. By the time we got back home, he had relaxed plenty, and we raced up to my room just like we always did. Once the door was shut, he grabbed me and kissed me really hard, fondling my bottom as he held me tightly. He desperately wanted me to help him, but I refused, since Mom might walk in at any moment, and that would be really, really bad. He went home a little later but promised to be back the next day. That night, I thought about how Molly and I got along, like two girls anywhere I would imagine. Then Derek and he wanted to do me, as the saying goes, which was obvious, but putting my hand on him was a long way from anything else, and I just wasn't ready for that, and didn't even consider letting him get into my panties, unless he wanted to wear them himself. But I also knew for sure there were at least two others my age that liked to play little girl, and wondered if Molly knew any others. I told myself I would call her in the morning, but not until I asked Mom if I could repaint my bedroom and get some more dolls, sort of make my room look like a girl's bedroom. The next morning, I had to play tennis, so I put my stuff in the new bag, and Mom took me to the courts, then followed me into the locker room and waited while I changed. I still wasn't used to playing in a short skirt, but it was actually easier to move around. Molly and I played 4 sets, losing only 1. There were a lot of girls playing, about a third more than there were boys. Molly took me around and introduced me to some of the girls she knew, plus about 5 guys. Everyone was very nice, but as we walked away, Molly told me that 2 of the girls I had met also liked to play little girl, and asked me if I might be able to come over to her house for an all-girl party where we could play, and maybe later spend the night. That's how I knew there were at least 2 others that liked to play dress-up. When I asked Mom, she said yes, so Molly and I asked the other 2 girls, and we set the date for that Saturday around noon. Molly stripped down and headed for the shower, leaving me standing there in the locker room in my bra and panties. Then she stopped and waved me to join her. I saw Coach Irene watching us, and without waiting, I also stripped and joined Molly in the showers. There must have been at least 10 girls in there, but nobody was watching anyone else. The innate shyness girls have took over. I was able to wash up, then went to my locker to get dressed. On the way home, Molly and I told Mom about the party. Then I asked her if I could get a new dress, and maybe a bunny suit to wear for pajamas. I didn't tell Mom, but I really liked being able to be a little girl by then, and didn't tell her that playing at being a little girl, wearing those frilly dresses with tons of petticoats wasn't so bad. In fact, I was beginning to like it more than a lot. After we dropped off Molly, we went back to that shop we got the other dresses at, and I picked out 2 more dresses. Both were shiny satin, one pink and one red. Both had tons of lace on them, and were so feminine that they actually screamed it. Mom let me get shoes to match and the bunny suit that I had asked for. Then we went home. Derek was sitting on the front porch when we drove up, looking sullen and angry. He followed us inside, and after I hung up my new dresses, "I was there today, I saw you." "Where?" "The tennis courts." "Why didn't you say something?" "I also saw the way Jeff was looking at you and the way he held your hand and smiled." "Derek," Molly introduced him to me. "It's nothing." "What is this anyway?" "Are you jealous?" "Of what?" "Ever since you got tight with Molly, I never see you anymore." "That's not true, Derek. It's just that. Let's go to a show on Saturday, Trisha." "You pick the show." I can't, Derek. Molly is having an all-girl, all-day party, then later a pajama party at her house. You 2 going to wear those frilly dresses again. All of us will be wearing them." That's what I just hung up. I got 2 new ones, with shoes to match. "Just girls can come." That's what we said, but if Deanna came, then I don't see why not. Only I don't think that you could stay for the pajama party. But I could ask Molly, if Deanna wanted to come, that is. "Call her and ask Trisha, please." I called, told Molly that Diana wanted to come to the party, and she eagerly said to bring her along. Then Diana told me that she had to go home and tell her mother, adding that she also wanted a new dress to wear and said that she was going to try and talk her mother into it. Derek left, and I took the new dresses to my room and tried them both on. I was wearing a red one when Mom walked in. "I think it's time that you went to the salon. Your hair is now down to your lower neck, and I'm quite sure they can fix you up to look really nice. And playing tennis, it will be a lot cooler without a wig. Shall we go now?" I changed clothes. Then Mom and I went to the salon where they cut and added a soft perm to my hair, leaving me with a fuller style that was most definitely a girl's style. I also had my nails shaped, short, but more feminine, and painted a soft reddish-pink color. When we got home, Mom told me it was time to remove the special panty and clean it, and also let my skin breathe a little. The instructions said that the latex it was made out of would allow air to get to my skin, but Mom didn't believe it, and I found myself back to seeing my manhood for the first time in over a month. I felt very strange having things between my legs again, and wore a full skirt to hide any bulges while Mom washed it out. Just about then, my dad came home and saw my hair, which is when he went completely bonkers. He yelled at Mom, me, the cat, then stomped off into his office. Mom followed him in, and as I watched, I saw his angry face turn red, then puzzled, and finally, he had a resigned look on his face. When Mom came out, she told me to go to my room. We had to prove a few things to Dad. When I was finally back in the panty, Mom went to her bedroom and returned with what looked like a one-piece swimsuit, but once I had it on, I saw that there really wasn't much to it, and it stuck to my skin like a second layer, outlining my breasts, especially my nipples, and what looked like what a girl would have below. Taking me by the hand, she and I walked out of my bedroom, ready to let my father know that I was a whole lot more girl than he had planned on or ever imagined. On the way, I told Mom that maybe it was time to tell Dad that I was going to keep on being a girl. That stopped her dead in her tracks. "You mean forever?" I nodded my head. "Mom, look at me. I'm a girl now. I play tennis as a girl. Derek and I have been out on a date. I seen Molly naked and even showered with her. I can't go back to being a boy. Not now. Not after what Derek and I. After what? What did you and Derek do?" Hanging my head, I told her what happened at the show, that Derek had kissed me a few times, how it made me feel, and told her that I would go to school as a girl, even if the other kids teased me about it. Mom didn't say anything, but gripped my hand a bit harder as we walked down the stairs and then into Dad's office. He looked up at me, his eyes taking me in from head to toe before he said a word. "This was supposed to be a punishment, but look at yourself. You look like a girl, and a fully developed girl at that. Would either of you care to tell me how this happened, or how it is that our son now looks like he has the body of a girl?" "Well," Mom began, "it started because Trisha wanted to look more like a girl her age, so I bought the breast forms, which were glued to her chest of course then." Mom went on to tell Dad how it all worked out, including the fact that Derek now saw me as a girl and had started to treat me as one. That threw him off track for a moment, but not as much as when Mom lied a bit and told him that the panty I had on, the one that required me to use the facilities like a girl and gave me the same figure, fit very tight against my skin, and because it was glued on, wouldn't come off easily until the glue wore out. That's when she told him that we had just reset the panty just a few moments before we came to his office. Then she went on to tell him about my fascination with little girl dresses and how some of the other girls also liked to play dress up, which is why I had so many of the frilly dresses, so we could play dolls together. Then, of course, there was the fact that I had a perm, soft as it was but still a perm, telling him that playing tennis was strenuous, and wearing a wig so uncomfortable that it was in my best interest to get my hair done, as a girl would of course. Then she told him that since I would be starting at school as a girl because of my extension anyway, that she didn't think I could revert partway through, and told him that I had her permission to keep dressing as a girl, for my own safety of course. I thought that he was going to bust a gut, but with obvious effort, he visibly calmed himself down. "What you're telling me is that we now, for all intents, have a daughter." Mom nodded her head yes while I remained silent, and the only way to punish her is to make her dress like a boy, but that's impossible now, because everything that makes her look like a girl is glued on. "Correct," Mom said, "but there is one more thing that I think you should know. The reason Trisha's time was extended, the real reason, she and Derek have become close enough to do things that only boys and girls do together, and now Derek has a crush on Trisha. It's puppy love, but I don't want to know what they did together, Mary, so don't tell me." He got out of his chair and stood there. If she and Derek have, and she has to start school as a girl anyway, or our punishment guidelines, which now seem worthless, have led to this, then I don't have a choice, do I? Looking first at me, then Mom. "Okay then, if Trisha is here to stay, then I'll expect her to behave like a girl would, and it will be up to you to teach her what the rules about boys are and where the red light is concerning boys. And you, he said, turning to me, you will not break any of those rules, or I'll see to it that you'll find yourself in an all-girls school, or maybe a convent quicker than you can blink. Am I making myself clear on this? Dad hated what had happened, and while Mom wasn't thrilled about it, she had seen what was happening to me from a woman's point of view and understood a little, I think. I had not started out wanting to be a girl. I hated the idea of it. In fact, then things changed as the days wore on, and I discovered that being a girl has its advantages if I knew how to use them. Like most girls my age, I was still figuring that out, but one lesson I learned already was that the guys generally went stupid around girls they found attractive, and that let us lead them where we wanted to go. Mom left me standing there, so I went to my room and put a skirt on over the suit, adding my gym shoes before I went to help Mom. You could say that dinner was stressful, especially when Dad would look at me and see the twin mounds of my breasts poking out against the thin material. That night, Molly called and told me that Gil's younger brother was also coming to the party, adding that both he and Diana were in for a big surprise. I had no idea what she had in mind, and she wouldn't tell me, but I was sure that it would be good. On Saturday morning, I called Diana, but her mother answered. When I asked if Diana was coming to the party, she said yes, adding that Diana was going to look as beautiful as she could because it would be the one and only time she was going to allow Diana to get so dressed up. Mom was going to drive us over to Molly's, so I was ready well ahead of time, wearing the new pink dress, the red one, and another change of clothes in my bag along with my dolly. When we walked in to get Diana, I was stunned when I saw her. She was beautiful. She wore a royal blue satin and lace dress with blue shoes. Her auburn hair had been done in pigtails with blue ribbons, and she wore enough makeup to make her quite pretty. Nobody would have guessed that Diana was a boy, never. When we walked into Molly's house, at least 2 other mothers were still there, all cooing about our dresses. They stayed a bit longer. Then we went into their family room, and Molly shut the doors. There were Gil, her brother Rachel, who was dressed like a 6-year-old since he was only about 8, me, Diana, Molly, Gwen, Kim, and Leona. All of us were wearing our best little girl dresses and quickly formed a circle and showed everyone our dolls. Rachel started to squirm, and Gil quickly opened her bag, took out a small blanket, and put Rachel on her back. Flipping up her dress, she pulled down the plastic panties and began to change the diaper. Rachel lay there calmly purring as Gil changed him. Then, to my very great surprise, Gil lay down on the blanket, pointed at me, and asked me to change her. I unwrapped her diaper, changed her, then let her pull the plastic pants back on herself. In my mind, that was taking being a little girl a bit far, but I didn't say anything. Molly's mother stayed away, and we were all enjoying our games when I had to use the bath and asked Molly where it was. I went to use the bath, and when I returned to the party, what happened next stunned me. Can I wear a diaper too? Everyone shrugged their shoulders, so Diana stood up, walked over to the blanket, and lay down on it. I want Trisha to change me. Looking at me, will you do it? I knew that she wasn't a girl, and wondered if the others also knew. I expected her to decline at the last minute, but she lay there and calmly asked me to change her. When I pulled her panties down, everyone went silent. I put a diaper on her and let her do it, then was cleaning her up when someone handed me the bottle of baby lotion. I had an evil thought, and as I began to rub it into her skin, I grabbed her thingy and began to stroke up and down while everyone watched. Diana was starting to thrash around, then with a big smile, she let go. I cleaned us both up, then she sat back down. Just then, Molly's mother walked in with a tray of treats, and we all enjoyed the drinks while giggling about what I had done to Diana. Derek had been trying hard to get me to do that for him, but I had always refused, unable to bring myself to touch him. Yet when he was dressed as a girl, I had done just what he always wanted. I didn't know why, and didn't think about it too much. If any of the other girls didn't know about Diana before that, they certainly did then, but none of them said a word about Diana being a boy. Gwen had the best doll. It was wearing an exact duplicate of what she had on, and the hair was the same as hers. The rest of us had normal dolls, and while we played with the dolls, anyone got a boyfriend. Me, said Gil. Dave has been hanging around a lot lately. I think he's going to ask me out. My brother's friend Greg, said Leona, has been watching me, and he has that look in his eye. What about you, Diana? Do you have a boyfriend? Not me, but I'll bet you have a girlfriend, right, Trisha? Molly was way too curious. Or more likely you and Derek. Has he kissed you yet? I'll bet he has, especially after what you did. What about you, Molly? I wanted to get the track away from Derek and me. Nope. Nobody is interested in me, not yet anyway, but there was this one boy. He wanted to see me naked so badly that he went in the girls' shower, but got caught by Coach Irene. Who was it? Gil asked. Do you know who it was? They wouldn't tell me, but I think my parents know. I heard he was punished really bad for it. The topic drifted away from the escapade that led to me becoming a girl, and thankfully we all went back to playing with the dolls. Rachel tired out, so Gil put her down and let her sleep while we all chatted away. It was so different than when guys were together. Guys talked about their conquests, future conquests, or wishful conquests, while the girls talked about hair and makeup, dresses and dolls, boys and other girls. It was interesting to hear what they thought about certain boys, although the general consensus was that if anyone could land Jeff, they had the catch of the century. That was the same Jeff that had held my hand a bit too long at the tennis courts, the same one that drove Derek crazy. After we all ate, everyone but Rachel went to change into their nightgowns or bunny suit. I had brought both, just in case, and I was glad that I did, since everyone else wore a thin nightgown, except for Diana, that is. She wore one that was heavier and floor-length. We watched videos until everyone started to drift off to sleep, then we all climbed into our sleeping bags. The night grew dark and quiet, and I lay there not quite asleep, wondering if it could get any better than what had just been a wonderful party. There was a noise, then a hand fell on my face. Quietly, the figure slipped into my sleeping bag and snuggled next to me, and as my hand moved, I felt first a breast, then the weapon that only Derek had. He slipped his hand under my nightgown, felt around a bit, then pushed me onto my back and got on top of me. Inept, he could not manage to do what he wanted, so I pushed him off and told him to leave. He left as quietly as he came. The next morning, I changed into a pair of shorts and a cropped top, brushed out my hair, and put on some makeup before I wandered into the kitchen, following the smell of eggs and bacon. I was home by noon, refreshed and with a new sense of myself. I knew that I loved the frilly dresses and being a girl, but I also knew that I didn't need to let Derek do me to prove anything. I was a girl, and I knew it. I didn't need to prove it. Molly and I finished 10th in the tennis tournament. Not great, but not bad either. The best thing was that she and I became great friends, often staying at each other's houses for the weekends. It was on one of those weekends that she and I were able to buy our dresses for the big party Coach Irene had told us about. Our mothers came along, but we were allowed to pick out our dresses alone. Mine was a soft mint green cocktail-type dress with a satin top and a very full chiffon skirt. It had a round neck and was sleeveless, which met Mom's approval. Molly's was sort of like mine, but hers was chocolate brown. My dad had not given up hope that I would return to being a boy, but when Mom and I went to the cell on the day of the party, he didn't give it a lot of thought, expecting that I would look about the same as before. But I had other ideas, and when we got to the salon, I told Mom what I wanted to do. She didn't fight it, so I lay there in that chair as wax strips were used to remove all traces of hair on my arms and legs. Then they did my eyebrows, and what was going to soon be my mustache, as well as most of my face, where hair was starting to grow. My skin was red for almost the whole time I was getting my hair done and having my nails polished, but I was back to normal by the time I reached the makeup chair, and by the time we left the salon, there was no longer any doubt in my mother's mind. I saw it in her eyes. When we got home, Mom followed me into my room and helped me get into, for the first time, a corset. It made my waist smaller, hiked up my boobs, and made me feel more feminine than I ever had before. I wore pantyhose, of course, and after I had the dress on and Mom zipped it up, I stepped into the pale green shoe. If someone had told me that my son would look as beautiful as you do, I would have slapped them, Patricia. But you are a very pretty girl, which you can use to your advantage if you want to try, that is. How? Let's get you some earrings and a necklace, a dab of perfume, and some lipstick, then you should go talk to your father. He needs to know that you still love him, and wearing a dress isn't going to change that, even if it's one of your little girl dresses that he hates so much. He needs to know how you feel about this, especially the fact that you have found out that you want to be a girl. He needs to know that, honey, and it has to be you that tells him. When I was ready, I looked in the mirror and saw a young girl, almost 15 years old, pretty enough I guess, with shiny dark brown hair cut in a page boy with bangs that accented but didn't hide my face. I had a nice figure, thin arms and delicate soft hands, and legs that were shapely and trim, especially in heels. I smiled at Mom and hugged her before I walked down the stairs to find my father. In the deep recesses of my mind, I knew the day was coming when Dad would have to understand how I felt, only I didn't expect to be the one to tell him. Looking at my reflection in the mirror, I saw how much I had changed in just a few months. From a skinny kid to a young girl, the difference is starkly evident, emphasized by my figure, hair, and makeup, put on display to best advantage by the way the dress was cut. I looked at Mom, who smiled, then walked out of my room to face my father and tell him what he had to know. I negotiated the stairs with care, then walked into the family room where I saw Dad sitting there watching television. I stood there for a moment, then he looked up and saw me. Dad, come in here and let me see you. I walked over to stand in front of him, my hands folded in front of me. This is all my fault, he said, if I had grounded you instead of Daddy. I read on the internet that it wouldn't have mattered. Sooner or later, I would have found out that I wanted to be a girl, so, you say you want to be a girl, but, Dad, I am a girl. I'm as close to being a girl as I can get, and I never want to be anything else. I have a panty, a special panty. It makes me look like a real girl. How else could I have showered with Molly so many times? You had to know at least that much, but what you don't know is that it doesn't matter what I wear. You're always going to be my father, and I'm always going to love you, no matter what you do, but I am a girl now, and I want to stay one. I can't be anything else now. Your mother told me that you wore something to make it possible not to be discovered, but she didn't go into details, which I don't need to know anyway. But what about my son? Is he ever? You have a daughter now, Daddy, me if you let me stay, and I hope that you'll love me the same way that you loved me before. That's insulting, Trisha. Of course I love you. It's just that we had. And now you look so. Standing up, he took my hands in his. I wanted my son back, but I can see with my own eyes and hear it in your voice that you would be miserable if I made you become a boy again. So how about we do this? I'll let you keep on being a girl if you promise to be the daughter we would have raised if you'd have been born a girl. Can we do that? I hugged him tightly, excited that he had told me I could be a girl. Then I kissed him on the cheek, leaving a red lipstick print. Mom showed up with her camera and took a lot of pictures of just me, then Dad and Dad took some of Mom and Dad drove me to the party and dropped me off at the door. I turned in the seat and put my legs out first, then stood up just as Earl walked up to the door. He offered me his arm, so I took it, and we walked in together. Earl was the captain of his school's tennis team and didn't know me except as Patricia. Without asking, he led me to a table, pulled out the chair, and let me sit down, with him sitting right next to me. He and I danced and had a nice time together. Then it was time to go home, and he asked if he could call me. I gave him my number. Then he walked me to the door where my dad was waiting for me. With the help of Coach Irene, I started school as a girl, all without any problem. All of the kids had changed so much over the summer that I fit right in with my changes. Derek had pulled back from our friendship, leaving me to wonder why, but he wouldn't tell me. Gwen, Gil, Molly, and I quit playing our little girl games about midway through the term, as the boys finally discovered the girls and we all started dating. Diana came over once more, and when we were in my room alone, She told me why I never saw Derek anymore. You're a girl now, and I'm still me. What can we do together now? Play with dolls. I'm bigger than you are, Trisha, and if I turn out like Dad, I'll never be able to play dress up again. Besides, you have that guy from Central after you now. Derek, it doesn't have to be like that. We can… What? Play little girl again? I can't, Trisha, I'm sorry. Diana never appeared again, and while I saw Derek at school, he never once asked me out and barely talked to me again. It was a harsh loss because I missed him. He was like a brother after all, but I wasn't his sister, and anything I did would send the wrong message. I missed Derek, but at home, my mom and dad had come to see me as a girl, and I was treated like one, complete with a curfew and strict rules from mom about boys. As nice as all that was, I still missed my frilly dresses, so once in a while, I would put one on, careful to use all the petticoats I had, and stay that way until I had to go to bed. It was only when I graduated from high school that I was able to take the medication to make me a real girl, which will be in about 2 years. Life is good.